current assessment. And I think that's, I think the last part that we're focusing on is that transition in preparation of our teachers. We really see classrooms that the instruction is just not at the level it needs to be. And I think we need to be upfront and honest that, okay, this is what you've done, this is what you've been doing for many, many years, but this is where we need to be. The same kind of thing with them, that we need to now say, this is where you're at, but this is where we're going. And we're having honest conversations and saying, you know, using a telephone, the dial motor telephone is not acceptable to be teaching your children or your students how to dial, because nobody has that. And I think it's hard for them to get out of those traditional ways, or their ways of teaching, and really think about what is age appropriate, what technology are they using. I've tried the iPad with our tests and with instruction, and we see students, you know, more engaged. We all can experience something like that. But what we see is our teachers aren't afraid, or they're not sure, and they're not sure those expectations or outcomes. So we're really focusing on our teachers, getting them to move forward, being positive about it. We know we have a long way to go. We know this is not going to be easy. But we're giving you tools starting now to start moving you along and getting you to where we need to be. And all of this is what's good for students, especially in this group. And I think for the first time, one of our big issues was always our teachers saying, for our 1% of our 1% are independently fragile students, this is not fair that we have to assess them on this test. And now they're hearing it's more rigorous. And we said, okay, we're going to listen to you, we're going to do something about that. And we think right now our rubric is really addressing that, because at least they're getting some credit for their participation in this. But we know we have a long way to go, even with that group. And as we work with our consortium, we keep bringing that up, because that is the biggest issue that I hear with teachers, is for that group of students. And I just want to make sure that we're not losing sight of them either, because growth for them is just as important as it is for another student. So that's where we're at.
Before you go on, is there any questions just in general about some of the things that we're doing in Arizona based on the information that you've heard on transition and on assessment? All right. Oh, good. Okay. Really, I'm not pushing the staff. You know, we thought we had another state sitting with us, and so we can't believe an hour.
I had two questions, actually. One, I wondered if you knew what percentage of students are taking the assessment.
Right.
Because I know you can only count 1%, but I was wondering how many you actually are taking it. And myself, I was wondering of the students who are taking it, do you have any idea how many of those students are mainstream in general that took classroom and how many are in some professionals?
That's a real good question. Sure, go ahead, and I'll give you back over.
The number of students, we have about 800 students per grade level taking our alternate assessment. And it does come out to be real right around that 1%. So our schools are doing a pretty good job. Another thing that we really focused on this year was eligibility, because we want to make sure the right students are taking this test. And every now and then, we'll see those students that are SLD in this test, and they're like, hold on a minute, what is your decision based on, or what evidence do you have? But we really want to make sure we have the right students that are taking this assessment, because that can, again, skew our results as a state. And not only that, but we just want to make sure that the students are getting the right instruction that are taking this test as well. For your other question, remind me.
How many of them are mainstream?
Oh, that varies greatly. Arizona is very unique. I'm sure each state is unique in their own way, but we have students on Indian reservations. We have many charters and private day schools, and we have our districts and charters. We have rural, and we have very rural and urban schools. So we have a wide range. But what I am seeing is more of them are starting to go into inclusion. One of our biggest districts in our state is doing going to a full inclusion model. So we are seeing some of those students in those classrooms. But for the most part, the majority are in Southeastern classrooms.
Thank you for your question. Any other questions? All right. So basically, one of the things as we were moving forward and some of the decisions that we made, and I have to be quite honest, I've been with the department for probably about 6 years, and when we began this transition with our assessment and looking at everything that we had and what we've been doing up to that point, and I have to be quite honest, when Audra joined my team, oh gosh, it's been a year. I tell her it feels like she's been here the whole time with me because we've done so much in a year's time. Having her expertise come on board really, help us think about things differently as well as when we go out in the classrooms and work with teachers and so forth. The other key pieces is that I think traditionally Arizona's been pretty quiet as far as involvement in different things, and we really wanted to be involved in as many grant and research opportunities as we possibly could. So, we're excited that we're involved with some programs with our colleagues at the University of North Carolina. We are on the LEAP project where we're really looking at our assessments, so working with Shawnee Wakeman and Megan, I always say Megan's name wrong. Yeah, anyway, many of you know who she is. I'll mess it up, I don't want to mess it up. So that has really helped us quite a bit, and we also are really fortunate that we have a leadership who's been supportive in helping us finding creative ways so that we can do some extra research projects. For instance, we had a major grant that ended, and then that same model, we're using it with these groups of teachers, looking at opportunity to learn. And so a few of my colleagues, we had done some major work on another project, and what we learned from that, we felt like we needed to do that with this population of teachers to find out really what is instruction looking like in these classrooms, because as Audra mentioned, we just see such a variety of things going on when you go from district to district or private day school to charters, and so, and how people are interpreting things. And some are doing some fantastic jobs, and when we find teachers in classrooms that are doing great things, we're really trying to tap into those folks to use them as instructional leaders so that we can start developing some training opportunities for maybe some peer camaraderie kinds of job-alike types of trainings for educators. My interest has been, and it's been fortunate too, is that we've been able to go out to the classrooms. We have a small, team, but we try to get out to the schools quite a bit, and I've done quite a few interviews with teachers and focus groups, really looking at that, sort of that consequential validity, because of these assessments and because we've heard, pros and cons of, doing these assessments. What does it mean for you instructionally? What has it done for you with IEP teams? And so as that evolved, we really have discovered some things that, these are just a few of the challenges I think that come to our minds immediately. There definitely are more, and this isn't an exhaustive list. But, from what we've experienced when we go out to the districts and we're working, as we're having communication with our colleagues, both at the department and in the field, one of the areas is the instructional programs, how, sometimes that inconsistency or the training perhaps that teachers might have received and how they've come about. We were one of those states too where, there was a period of time we had emergency cert teachers, and I'm amazed at how many emergency certified teachers ended up in these programs with the most significant students. And it's like, so how do we go backtrack to try to give them that kind of support to say, all right, this looks really different than this. It's not, we're not babysitting for better terms, okay? And I'm, just trying to keep it real. But so now, moving forward with the Common Core standards in Arizona, it moved pretty quickly in aligning and looking at what we currently had and adopting the Common Core standards, and which we've done and rolled out a tremendous amount of training. We just completed this past fall doing quite a bit of regional trainings because we go out and do the actual training of our alternate assessments. And while we were there, we used some of that time to also talk about, how many of you have gone through a training or have you actually begun to familiarize yourself with the Common Core standards. I mean, our special educators need to be part of that. And we were surprised to see that not too many had actually started looking at it. Yes?
Is your assessment aligned with the Common Core?
We had alternate standards in Arizona.
Oh.
So our current assessment is aligned to all alternate standards, which are aligned to our old standards. But they're alternates, and that's been something we'll talk about.
Yeah, we haven't quite made that transition. Part of it too, I think, came because as we began our work with NICSIC and knowing that we were going to be moving forward with this new assessment, and like I said, building it in-house completely without a test company is an interesting experience. But that was really, quite honestly, before the consortia opportunities came around, that was one of the discussions we were talking about was, really looking at some things and innovative items, types, and things like that, and changing that. I thought I saw another hand. Okay. All right. So really, we're really wanting to help support and ensure that all of our special educators are being part of that training and becoming familiar with the Common Core standards. And then with us, and in addition to that, is what we need to do that's even much more specialized for those teachers who are working with the students who are taking the 1% assessment. The other thing that we struggle with is we get the calls all the time, is there a curriculum out there for this population? What curriculum is somebody using? And, as a State Department, well, okay, we don't, we allow the districts to make those decisions and whatnot. And so I have to be quite honest, I'm excited about some of the things that's coming out of the work that we're all doing because at least it'll be something, that I think teachers are wanting and have a need for. So those are some key issues. The other one is we do have a little fear of leaving students behind. As Audra mentioned, we wanted to make sure that we were starting to look at more challenging items for our students, but we are fearful as we make this transition and we're working with teachers, and if we don't provide the kind of training and support that these teachers need on these new Common Core standards and college and career readiness concepts, that there might be that small percentage of students that we might, we could easily miss and not make sure that we have prepared those teachers well to be thinking about when they're sitting in those IEP teams decisions and really changing their mindset and thinking about what can be possible. With that also is just starting much earlier. Too often we know our teams are starting at middle school and high school, and we need to be starting right now at kindergarten. We were panicked. We were like, oh my gosh, we got to get out there with the kindergarten and second grade teachers. So what are they doing to be thinking about this population of students and what they're being exposed to? I talked a little bit about teacher preparation. The post-high school experiences, that's another real major concern for us, what's available for students. As Bill mentioned, and we were talking, and this is going to be just such an awesome partnership. It's amazing. We always run into each other at other meetings, and now we have a real sense of purpose to pick each other's brains. But we know when we go out, if you were to come to Arizona, you come to Phoenix, and it's very urban. There's a lot happening. I live in Tucson, I work up in Phoenix. Tucson is very similar in that there's a lot available in those larger districts. So there's more opportunities to be out in the community, to be working at different programs, to maybe even going on to technical programs. In the next session, you're going to hear from our colleagues from the University of Arizona, my alma mater. They have a fabulous program that they're starting, and we're hoping that these kinds of things will grow in our state. But then you go up to the Four Corners, very different. So how do we begin that conversation to ensure that we are, number one, respecting the culture of our Native American population and looking at what's available in those communities? Those communities really struggle when their students finish school. What then happens to them? Where do they go for a community college experience? Where do they go for a career experience? And things like that. So often some of those students actually come to some of our special schools and are into still residential types of programs, and then they go back home. So, and for these students, that's probably very important because that's important for the typical student who leaves that community and comes to the university and goes back to help and do the things that is important to them. So we're really wanting to find avenues in how to support those outlying areas. The next challenge is technology. And actually, when I put this down, I kind of waffled with it because since we've been doing this assessment online for the past, I want to say 8, 9 years, it's improved. And like I said, the It's been via a programmer that we work with and been constantly designing and enhancing this assessment online. So teachers, when we rolled out with this 8 years ago with this online assessment, they were just kind of forced into making it happen. So quite honestly, we think this will be the population that will make the transition a little bit easier than all the students who are going to participate in the PARC assessment, because they've had to. The other thing too is that we are still concerned about what's available as the other kinds of technology that go along with it, because when you're in the Phoenix schools and even some of our day schools, you will see teachers bring up the items. They've got the smart boards, they've got different devices that they plug in that the child might use to access, and they have overlays so that the student can make independent choices using a big thing. All those kinds of things that sometimes we don't see out, and so we're trying to really work with our assistive technology team in that way. We also are seeing more of it happening part of their instruction, but again, it's not consistently. So how do we do that? We have one district in southern Arizona where all the kids come to school with iPads, even the students with the significant disabilities. And they do some really great things, you know. So how can we continue looking at developing better programs for that? So this is where we are. Right now, because we are with PARC, and you know that's kind of the larger, because that's the majority of the population in Arizona who will be taking that large-scale assessment. So that's really been a great momentum. We meet on a monthly basis at our department where it's interagency meetings. This is a new process for us because I don't know, like maybe some of the other Department of Ed, you have lots of different departments and we all kind of know each other, but we all do our own thing. We kind of run these parallel systems. And so it's exciting that we are coming to the table every month to be talking and planning, and also so that we're relaying the same language and communication to the field. So having that partnership so that basically the Exceptional Student Services, title or language acquisition, adult ed, career technology, all of those different departments are coming together. And I think that they've heard really loud and clear too. My boss, who's Roberta Alley, who's involved in most of the meetings that's happening with PARC, has really heard us say, but when we say all means all. And so that's been really important for us to be part of it too, because we're also thinking about what happens, because we understand that for our students with significant populations, really there are some additional things that we need to be thinking about, more so than even what's going to happen with the large population. Then we are looking to, pretty quickly here this spring, is to come together with some stakeholders. We really feel that we need to, not only with our own partnership in transition and assessment in ESS, but also looking at some of the outside agencies, both rehab, EDD, any of our community colleges or training programs, and begin having a conversation about this is what we see happening. How do we make this leap? Because here's the education, and then they move on to your program. And what kind of partnerships, and kind of get some feedback, or at least for them to hear where we're trying to move, so that they are also prepared for it. And then of course some other focus groups that include the families, guardians, teachers, and so forth. Right now we're pretty excited because we do have a huge involvement of educators who we bring to the table pretty regularly to work with us on key concepts. And then I think our biggest area of support is going to have to be for the LEAs and those school programs, making sure how we, number one, get the information to the teachers. NICS's program with us having the community practice has really, man, as soon as that was brought to our attention that we needed to identify teachers to be part of that, I think the first thing out of our mouths was, oh my gosh, we got to build capacity. Because we got to use this for more than what it's worth. I mean, so, I'm right away trying to find, okay, extra money, because, you always got to kind of keep folks motivated, and, we've done it. But not only will we use them to really support what we need to do with the consortia work, but we want to really build capacity. These teachers, we have 34 teachers. We have them in northern Arizona, southern Arizona, on our border school districts. And we want them to sort of be our ambassadors. So we will be bringing them regularly to come meeting with us so that they can kind of really help us go out and, you know, within small districts, have them all come together, have these job alights and things like that, because they're going to see the materials firsthand. So that would probably be our greatest effort. And then continuing on with whatever training that we can provide. So that kind of gives us, that's our last, yes, an overview of what we're doing in Arizona. I think it's a starting point, and I'm sure we're kind of there where everybody else is trying to be. And we actually are looking for any ideas if other folks are doing some other points, or you have some pointers or things that we should be thinking about that we haven't. We really value that input.
I have a question. For me, again, I look at this from when I was a teacher, and I would always get the information after everybody else. And I had my students to take care of, and it was so hard. And when we started hearing about this, I said, Lila, we have to be ahead of the train. And so I do a lot of my presentations, and they're always, don't be caught chasing the train. Because I feel as special educators, and especially with this group, we are. And so that's what I tell everybody. We have to be ahead of the game. We have to know what's coming so that we can prepare. And I think that has also helped teachers kind of come a little bit at ease, because this is hard. They're not ready. They know it. Some will admit it and some will not. But knowing that we're going to give you information as it comes to us rather than waiting has really helped them see that we're here to support them. And I think that's been a great response for us, is that overall our teachers are like, okay, tell us where you're going. And I can't help it, but I am really excited about all this. So I get up there and I'm like, we are going to do this. And they're like, okay. But I am really excited for them, because I think for the first time they're going to get materials that they haven't had. For the first time they're going to get training that they haven't had. And for me, most important is we're going to support them in this. And I know it's a small group, but as we all come together and start to grow, it's going to get a lot easier for us. So I'm so excited.